Welcome to As-Sahwa's podcast, encouraging revival of the mind and the heart, seeking the truth and standing for what is right in the age of overloaded misinformation. Today we're discussing the evolving landscape in Syria, a nation, a country that has faced immense challenges in recent years. With the changing dynamics in the region, Syria has been and has seen shifts in leadership and governance. So let's dive into the implications of these developments and what they might mean for the country's future. Mahfuz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ahlan wa sahlan, and welcome to the face-to-face As-Sahwa's podcast.
Shukran, jazakallah khair, brother Usman.
Now, I came across your TikTok.
Sure.
Very political. A brother introduced us, and I just thought to myself, I have to have this person on my podcast. I've got to get him on, and we've got to discuss this issue about Syria. Before we start the topic, Mahfuz, I'd like to ask my guests to not introduce themselves, but really to tell me about themselves. So,
Sure.
How did you get involved in this TikTok business?
Well, I'll tell you, if you look at the monetization options, first of all, it's not really a business. So, how I got involved, who am I really? I am not someone who studied geopolitics at university. I currently work in vulnerability management and threat intelligence in a cybersecurity capacity.
Okay.
With a company in the city of London. I've been an avid reader and learner for as long as I can remember. Not everyone's the same, but I know loads of people are in that situation. They watch the news, they process it, they maybe comment on it with their family members, etc. But it never really went beyond that. But with my threat intelligence, research capabilities, some of the skills I learned in my cybersecurity role, I was able to get the news from, let's say, more sources. And it got to a point where I thought, you know what, I've got an understanding here. It's not the best. It's not an expert tier understanding of geopolitics or regional dynamics or global dynamics, but it's more than the average Abdullah, as I say, or average Joe, if you want to be. It's more than the average Joe understands, let's say. And average Joe might not have time to unfilter the news. We live in the West. The news there's so much to talk about really in terms of the news, but the news is filtered before it reaches the ears and the eyes of the masses. The news is tailored to make sure that the state narrative is aligned, or at least is not too far from the state narrative that it causes problems for the government wherever you are, be that France, be that Germany, be that UK, US. And I thought, I'm pretty sure people would want the news without the filter on it, without the spin on it. So I started just randomly. Just one day I took my brother was buying a car and we were in the showroom. I just took a photo of myself sitting on the couch because I had, nothing better to do. We were waiting. Popped that photo as the display picture on TikTok. That evening or the next day I started making some videos. 7 months later, here we are.
Are you only on TikTok or are you on other social media?
So I started on TikTok because I wanted to pick the medium that was currently trending. TikTok's on fire. Loads of people just go there for everything. When I first heard about it, I was like, astaghfirullah, TikTok, la hawla wa la quwwata. Like, what's going on here? You open it up and the maddest of mad would be on there. But it's developed, it's grown beyond just, random, subhanAllah, it was peak at the start. Random women just like dancing to whatever, however they want, really. That's how it initially came up on my feed, at least. But later on, I saw people are on TikTok for all kinds of reasons. Now it's a sort of Instagram, it's a sort of Facebook, it's a sort of YouTube Shorts, it's everything. And obviously TikTok's algorithm tailors to whatever you search for, whatever you watch. So I don't really get pictures of random women dancing anymore. So
Yeah,
that's
or some weird cats doing some strange things.
yeah, cats with AI now. Oh my god. Anyway, so yeah, I'm on TikTok. To answer your question, we've already gone off on tangents.
Yeah.
I opened up on YouTube very
Right.
recently because I think in the long term I want to build something out on YouTube as well.
Inshallah.
That's a very good foundation. As I'm sure you'll know, actually, what we're doing today here is obviously based on YouTube. Facebook, Instagram, chuck some of the shorts on there. That's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
And I'm on X Twitter because I think loads of people want a sort of text summary. So I'm touching on that as well.
Yeah.
Got some plans for the future. Maybe my own app, my own website.
Okay.
And I say but I mean for the people, for the benefit of the community in
That'd be
terms of
good.
those who want, the news without the Western spin.
Yeah.
But it's not quite there yet. I work full time, so it's, and I've got a family, so alhamdulillah, it's a good thing, obviously. But it does slow things down. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, it is.
Well, there's an alternative to X now.
What truth? Don't say truth social.
No,
Okay.
no, it's called Blue Sky.
Blue Sky.
So it looks a bit like Twitter or X,
Sure.
but it's like the alternative to it.
In what capacity? Like who runs it?
Yeah, well, I don't know much about who runs it, but
Okay.
definitely not Elon Musk.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I kind of got onto it as
Blue
well.
Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
it's okay. It's not too bad.
it.
It's very similar to X.
Have-
But again, it's another platform. That's what it is.
There's so many. Every platform you add is like extra. Work and maintenance. Mind you, I do appreciate like the community building aspect of it, but it just takes time, man.
It does.
And I'm just like an average Abdullah, like I said, without a team or anything behind me. It's just I make a joke in my TikTok videos that I've got zero animation budget,
Right.
so I'm just like describing how rockets work. Ballistic missiles are like this, hypersonic missiles are like this, interceptors are like this, and they're like, yo, these zero animations, they're quite actually. They're like endearing. And I'm like, okay, great, because it doesn't cost me anything.
That's right. At least it's real and natural, not AI.
No, yeah. So,
Right.
oh my God, AI, I work in cybersecurity as well.
Yeah.
So we're like at the forefront of understanding the capabilities of AI. Mate, AI could be doing this podcast for us. I could get an AI clone generated from your footage, an AI clone of my footage, AI our voices, and just, it could all be fake. But that takes away so much,
Well, I
it's
think
mad.
I've got a session already for our next podcast with you.
Well, AI.
On AI. So let's leave that for that time, inshallah.
Yeah.
Mahfuz, the topic for today is the issue of Syria, the effects of the politics to the issue of the threat in the region of various countries, and kind of various stakeholders in the region. Now, before we go into the topic, can you please give us an understanding when we talk about politics or geopolitics? Because I don't think us, the public, the layman, really understand what is geopolitics.
So, I don't like textbook definitions like Oxford Dictionary says word for word. So I just answer naturally. Geopolitics is understanding how nations think and act, treating them like people, treating the world stage like a playground or a cafeteria in some sort of South Korean drama or whatever, and treating each country like a character, like a person. They have their inclinations, they have their priorities, they have their desires. In democratic countries, the personality is different. It might change every 4 or 5 years because of the administration. In more centralized governing countries like China or Russia, personality might be a lot more stable. But every country has its personality. Geopolitics is understanding countries, what they want to do, why they want to do it. And I think that's really important. Really important, because people in our community, in the Muslim community, outside the Muslim community as well, they want to know, why is Israel doing what it's doing? Why is Russia doing what it's doing? Why is China moving this way? Why is the US moving that way? And why is international law not applicable? All of that is covered by geopolitics, because geopolitics talks about the practical, real nature of countries and their desires as a state. A state can have a direction it's going in. A state can have a desire, and is formed of many facets, geopolitics, but you can start with the first two: geography of a country, and the politics, the internal politics of that country. That's where geopolitics comes from, combination of that too. But he also talks about culture, or is affected by culture, ethnicity, religion, economics, military capabilities. All of that combined gives you a nice packaged understanding, and I call that geopolitics.
To make it clear that today's podcast is not talking about Syria and its new president from a Islamic Shari'i perspective.
No.
To make that clear, again, is really to say that, look, there's two, you could say, schools of thought.
Sure.
One says, hold on a second, this is a person who was holding the banner of La ilaha illallah. He fought the aggression and the oppression of Bashar and, his government, got rid of them, and then went into power, and then suddenly introduced a constitution which was enabling man-made law for some that was above the Sharia of Allah.
No.
And for them, this particular person now has become a taghut, a murtad, and no longer a Muslim. Okay. You have another school of thought that actually say, well, hold on a second. It depends on intention.
No.
Depends on circumstances. Ahmed Al-Sharra took on a situation which needed a president. And in this day and age, we don't have much of a choice but to be a part of the politics and the system which is already there.
Sure.
So therefore, we don't say he's not a Muslim or he's become an apostate, but rather we say that he is somebody who has fallen into that situation, and therefore he can only do to his best. So that's a discussion amongst the ulama. That is a discussion that I would like to have, no problem. But that's not today's discussion. Today's discussion is purely about Syria, the situation of Syria, and obviously that of Ahmed Al-Sharra. Now, in terms of how he rose to power, there's lots of question marks.
Sure.
Okay, a lot of people are going to say, hold on a second, this guy was in prison. From prison, he was with one group, and then from that group, he went to another group, and then from that group, he formed his own group, and then suddenly, he started taking over Syria. He's been accused of murdering lots of leaders of other groups within Syria as well. And then on top of that, suddenly he's making negotiations with Turkey, with America, and therefore people are now labeling him that he was a spy from the very beginning. Lots of accusations, but there's no proof.
Right.
And it's not clear.
It's not clear is the biggest point.
Right. So now, the issue here is, from your understanding, how did someone like Ahmed Al-Sharra get to the position he is in now? How did he rise to such power?
Let's say Ahmed Al-Sharra's interesting background, and for those who don't know who we're talking about somehow, this is Abu Muhammad Al-Jawlani. That's his military call sign, his sort of rebel military nickname. But Ahmed Al-Sharra is his official name, presidential name, if you will. I think when I talk about geopolitics, Osman, I think what's important to note is the practicality, the being realistic, being analytical, rather than idealistic or, leaning into conspiracy theories. Oh, he's a this, he's a that. CIA is right on him, or he's a Mossad agent. I heard Ahmed Al-Sharra can speak Hebrew fluently. I hear all kinds of comments. It's like, and I think, guys, you're not looking at things analytically. So, analytically, let's look at what happened. Syria, for a sort of whistle-stop tour, if you will. Syria's history is, for 50 years, it was under Assad family rule. Bashar al-Assad, and before him, his father. They ruled the country, by and large, with an iron fist, in a very controlling, repressive government. Now, why was it controlled? Why was it repressive? Why was it so hard on so many Syrians? Lots of people just don't know. Well, Bashar al-Assad was from the Alawite community. It's a specific sect, you could say, a specific, let's say, culture or ethnicity, mainly in the west of the Syrian state. Now, he ruled the majority of Syrians and his Alawites and the other minorities of Syria, and minority rule often, unfortunately, comes with extreme repression, because if you come from the minority and you have to impose your control on the majority, there's a lot of friction. I'll give you an example. The Alawites are what? 5 to 10% of Syria's demographic. Muslims are 5 to 10% of the United Kingdom. Imagine Muslims suddenly rule the United Kingdom. I'm not saying I support that or don't support that, but because I'm an analyst, okay, I don't really take sides. Not openly, at least.
I'm not too sure what Tommy Robertson would say to that, but anyway.
Yeah, Stephen Yaxley Lennon,
Yes.
as I call him.
Yeah.
Bless him. Not really. He's he probably wouldn't like the idea of the UK being ruled by Muslims, but I mentioned this briefly because the Muslims ruling according to our religion, according to our customs, our culture, imposing that on the entire British community who are not Muslims, who are not, of our culture or whatever the culture is, that would cause a lot of tension. Imagine that for 50 years. That was Syria. And lots of people don't know that. They don't complain about that. They had no problem with Bashar al-Assad. Suddenly they have a problem with Ahmed Al-Sharra talking about Islam and having the Shahada on a flag here and there, or not shaking a woman's hand. Annalena Baerbock of Germany, if, I'm referencing that. Suddenly people care. Now, after 50 years of Assad minority repressive rule, Syria cracked and went into civil war. Yes, there was involvement by the foreign powers. There was an operation by the CIA, and they wanted to install someone friendly. I have to point out that failed by and large. And in 2017, they called it a day. They gave up. They packed up and went home, or went somewhere else in the Middle East. They don't really go home, the Americans.
Yeah.
Beyond that, eventually in 2024, the North Syrian forces, they found an opening, as it were, and they exploited it. They moved forward, and before they knew it, really, they were in control of Damascus, Dimashq, the capital, and there was no Assad government left. So how did it go? In the details, the nitty-gritty is a complex web of geopolitical calculation, and Russia had a say, and Iran had a say, and Iran's influence had been degraded, many say, so they couldn't really back Assad. But the long and short of it, the summary is, Syria for the last 15 years was this balkanized, fragmented nation. When I say balkanized, it's when if you let a vase go and it falls and it cracks into, breaks into a million pieces, that's balkanized. It first happened in the Balkans during the Yugoslav war. Now it describes any nation that's just been fragmented beyond operational. I
didn't actually know that was actually a term, balkanized.
Yeah, balkanized.
Right.
So Syria was essentially balkanized, right? You had the North Syrian forces operating in the north, sort of governing Idlib as best as they can. They had the Turkish backing, essentially, because Turkey wants to ensure there's something going on its border that it can control geopolitically. That was one fragment in the north of Syria. The northeast of Syria had the Kurdish PKK-aligned Syrian Democratic Forces, hilarious name. But you can, obviously, Americans.
Yeah, of course.
It was America-backed, so they said we need to add a good old democracy in here. And why was America in the northeast supporting the Kurds? I'm not even making this up. It's not even a joke. The oil is in the northeast, and as we know,
100%.
Wherever there's oil, the US needs to bring freedom and democracy to it.
Of course.
So you had the northeast, Kurdish separatists backed by the US. You had the northwest, you could say, Turkish-backed North Syrian forces, and then you had Dimashq, the capital, and the southern territories, southern regions under Bashar al-Assad. So Assad wasn't ruling really a country. He was ruling 1/3 of a country barely. From there, in 2024, the North Syrian forces came down when they saw that opening I was talking about, and they took control of the capital. Assad fled to Moscow, where I believe he still is, under Putin's good care, for whatever reason. Putin can use him as a chess piece somewhere, perhaps at some point in the future. Governments do this, by the way. They hold, sort of exiled leaders as chess pieces in a future geopolitical move. If they want to make it, they have access to that chess piece. So it's an interesting dynamic there. And that's how Ahmed Al-Sharra came to power. So he was the leader of HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the group that was leading the North Syrian forces when they came down and took the capital. So naturally, the leader of the leading rebel group that took the capital is now the de facto interim government leader. That's the summary, I suppose.
The situation obviously is ever evolving,
Of course.
and we know from yesterday and the last few days,
Yes.
where the Druze have come in abundance and armed, well armed by Israel,
Yeah.
and how Israel has opened the gates to allow the Druze to come in. But before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the situation of the region, etc., and that kind of thing, one thing that stands out to me is for someone like Ahmed Al-Sharra, how he's gone from being a rebel leader to now a president of a country, and shaking hands with the very people that he was criticizing, i.e. the other Arab leaders,
Sure.
right? So Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc. Now, there's a lot of talk about there's behind-the-scenes discussions between Ahmed Al-Sharra and Israel, etc.
Yes.
Probably there is. I'm not surprised if that's the case or not. And America is involved in this kind of thing. From a political stand, do you think then it is necessary for someone like the president of Syria to really have those discussions with countries like Israel?
We need to be analytical, not emotional, right? Emotion has its place. Emotion's good for short-term gains, for pushing an agenda, a movement. For example, if you're an activist who's chosen a side on a matter and you want to push your side, you become an activist. But if you want to understand, you need to be an analyst, not an activist, right? You need to understand first what's going on. Now, as an analyst, most of us are not politicians. Most of us are not national level geopolitical strategists. I ask you, Usman, as an individual, would you do something different if you were, for example, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia? Your answer is, of course, I would not be doing what Mohammed bin Salman is doing on foreign policy, on economics, on morality, culture, everything, right? You would, loads of brothers will resonate with this part. They'll think, if I was the head of the Saudi state, I would send in the army right now. Let's roll up to Rafah or whatever border crossing through Jordan. Doesn't matter what the consequences. I'll do that. No, you would do that because you're a common citizen. You don't understand the geopolitical game being played. There's a game, and every participant on a national level are the heads of state and the administrations. They're playing that game. There's loads of factors to consider. I'll give you an example. So let's go back to Syria, actually.
Yeah.
So Syria, the current president, Ahmed Al-Sharra, he's shaking hands with these heads of state, and he's potentially in conversations with Israel, al-i'tilal, as the Arabs call it, the occupation. Is this really necessary? Oh, he must be an agent, right? He's absolutely Mossad. I can see the Hebrew plastered to his web. Anyway, no. You have to look up this term here. It's called realpolitik. It's practical politics. To get what you want, you cannot simply just blindly make a dash for that. You have to consider everything else. Before you can act to achieve what you want, you have to achieve what you must. What must happen has to come before what you would prefer. Now, can a dead man stand for anything? Can a dead man take care of his family? No. So Ahmed Al-Sharra has a responsibility now. He's been given a responsibility, or he's taken a responsibility, however you want to phrase it, however you want to see it. His responsibility now is to the almost 20 million Syrian people. Now, like him or hate him, because I know loads of people have already made up their mind on him, but I'm speaking analytically, and I'm not taking a side. You don't know, for example, do I support him or not? I'm giving the analysis. Okay, the analysis is the majority of Syrians, 80% by and large, Sunni, Muslim, Arab, that majority, and potentially other minorities are benefiting already in these 6 months under his leadership, because his agenda is to unify, is to stabilize, and later to prosper. That's the agenda of Ahmed Al-Sharra's Hukumatul Inqadus Syria, the Syrian Salvation Government, because it's in such a state, Syria, that it needs salvaging, basically sunk. You know, try to salvage the Titanic. His missions is going to be hard. It's not easy. Now, to that end, to pursue stabilization and unity, and then hopefully prosperity, Ahmed Al-Sharra has to do what's good for his people. Now, he might assess, for better or worse, I'm not, taking a side, but he might assess, his administration might assess that, we have, economy minister, tell me, what's the situation? Economy minister says, economy is absolutely going through the ringer. There is no economy, let's just say. Is it trash economy? Okay. So what's the first thing we can do? And his economy minister might say, okay, so President Al-Sharra, these sanctions by the Western powers, these sanctions imposed against Bashar al-Assad obviously remain to this day. Sanctions that don't allow us to buy, don't allow us to sell on the world market, that don't allow our businesses to open up elsewhere, or foreign businesses to come in and make a profit and open up a branch in Syria. This is killing us. We need to get these sanctions lifted, ideally. That would be great. Ahmed Al-Sharra says, okay, fine. What am I going to have to do? And it's like, okay, you definitely can't wear a turban, first of all. You can't wear a shemagh. Don't try shemaghs or thobes. Put on a suit. Keep your beard, fine, okay. You don't want to handshake with any women, fine. But, appeal to the Western powers. Not to fall under their obedience or fall in line with them. Like, for example, some other countries. Let's say, for example, the country that holds the Nile River, or the Gulf monarchies, or Turkey. There's loads of countries that are under what I call the Western sphere of influence, America's sphere of influence. Now, Syria has to play a game, a balancing act, where we want to move towards the West to engage with them so that we can get the sanctions lifted for the benefit of my people, not because I want to fall in line with the West. And actually, I would love to talk about why Syria is actually in a very unique position where it actually has leverage over the West.
Really?
Yes. You see, I haven't come across anyone in the public space that has talked about this analytically. But you see, what Syria can do is they can say to the West, we have moved from pro-Russia, pro-Iran under Assad to the middle. Now that's progress towards the West, right? So the West is by and large happy. It's not because Ahmed Al-Sharra is a Mossad agent. It's because the Western powers have been pleased by the shift from Eastern aligned to neutral. It's not Western aligned. Syria is not Western aligned. But they're neutral now compared to where they were before. Russia backed, Iran backed. That pleases the West. So now Syria is in a good position to be able to work with the West without falling completely in line. Now, why would the West accept that? Why wouldn't they say, you know what, great progress, but you need to come fully aligned with us. We can't give you anything more. Well, Syria might turn around. This is the leverage. They might turn around and say, okay, fine. Then I'm going to align myself with China and Iran again, but under this administration. Now, what are you going to do about that? Because then I'll align economically, potentially militarily, with China, with Iran, with the global south, and I'll have Turkey backing me up because the government now is the Turkish-backed North Syrian forces. So they've got the sort of pinky toe in NATO, support from Turkey, which is NATO. Fun fact, the strongest NATO member in Europe is Turkey. Really? Not UK, not Germany, not France. Their military industrial complex, their army is far superior to the Western European powers.
Wow.
You check it out. Other than the United States, Turkey has no equivalent in NATO. The US is far above them. Then it's Turkey. So all of NATO's balance of power, by the way, just shifted far east into the Muslim world, essentially.
Right.
Fun fact, but that's for another topic, I suppose. Yeah. So Syria has, an alliance essentially, or alignment with Turkey, but then it can threaten to the West. Well, I'll just take my whole economy, all my potential prosperity in the future. I'm just going to align with the global South, which is economically your natural rival. And the West is like, okay, hang on. We can work something out. And Trump in Riyadh as Mohammed bin Salman was clapping away, Trump said, I love this guy. MBS, well, I wouldn't do for him. He's so amazing. I'm going to lift the sanctions on Syria. And he lifted sanctions on Syria by and large. So that's actually coming into law legislatively. I don't know why I said it like that. Legislatively, it's coming into law, Osman, so that the US will lift sanctions on Syria. Now, the UK, being, like a compliant little lapdog, if I'm being blunt, also said, Big Daddy US is doing it. Okay, we'll do it as well. And they lifted sanctions as well. So this is good for Ahmed Al-Sharra's administration because the Syrian people might prosper then. They might actually have that chance. Now, that required engaging with the Western powers. Sometimes you need to shake the hand. Sometimes you need to speak with your enemy. Watch Kingdom of Heaven. Do you think Salahuddin Ayyubi did not negotiate with people he hated? Negotiated with his open enemies? Of course he did. He spoke to the Crusaders. He spoke to the leaders of the Kingdom of Jerusalem as Jerusalem lay occupied after the Christians massacred the Jews and the Muslims there. Salahuddin came and spoke to them. Imagine if he said, no, I can't speak to these kuffar. I can't sully my good name. What then? He wouldn't have retaken Jerusalem. You have to look at the ends. And they may sometimes justify the means. I'm not talking Shari's perspective because neither of us are scholars. I don't know about you actually.
No,
but
I'm not an alim.
so there's no point. It would just be two blind people talking about their artwork over there. But practically, Ahmed Al-Sharra might be doing what's good for his people. And, love him or hate him, you have to understand that. And Israel is one of the there's 5 significant, at the moment, regional powers in the Middle East, Osman. They are Israel, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and Iran. Some people will disagree with that listing. Of course, it's just subjective. Some people might say Qatar and UAE are also part of that. Egypt is not. It doesn't matter. Point is, Israel is one of the most significant, if not the most significant regional power in the Middle East. And it's right next door to Syria. And they occupy Syrian territory.
Yep.
And after the 2024 overthrow of Assad, Israel sprang into action. Now, they hit Syria with over 400 airstrikes. They leveled their anti-air capability so that the sky over Syria might as well just have the Israeli flag on it. They have full control. Similar to what they did in Iran when they took out the air defenses there during the 12-day war. But under Syria, it's even worse because they're right next door. So the Israeli jets don't have much to fly. They can just fly straight there. It will take them minutes, literally. So to not negotiate with your violent, militaristic, ethno-state neighbor is just asking for trouble. Yeah, you have to see if you can find a way to, hold them back. And by and large, Ahmed Al-Sharra's administration has been able to finesse it so far that in 6 months the Israelis haven't just come out and say, okay, we need to overthrow this government, it's too Islamist. They need to play a balancing act. For the people who say, why are you speaking to Israel, why are you not calling them out, why are you not going after Palestine? Like I said, a dead man can't stand for anything. But people will understand that if they have an emotional reaction, have an analytical assessment of the situation, you'll understand, okay, if I try to do anything for Palestine as the Syrian administration now, not only will I be absolutely useless to the Palestinian cause, but also my 20 million Muslims Druze, Alawites, whatever, everything, Christians, combined, all of us will be screwed again. Civil War Part 2. How long will the next one last? So I need to fix myself before I go and help others. Similar to the Taliban in the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. You don't see them sending their army to Palestine. Well, they have to fix themselves. They've just been through 40 years of occupation and war. First against the Soviets, that was 20 years. Then against the United States for another 20 years. You have to think of things analytically. And if you think of things analytically, there is justification. There's reasoning for why Ahmed Al-Sharra and his administration could be speaking to, working with the West, Israel included. And the conclusion doesn't have to be, it's because he's an agent of, because he's a Mossad agent. No, there's a geopolitical reason, basis for him actually speaking to these groups. He doesn't have to be allied to them to speak to them for the benefit of his people.
It's easy for people to jump onto conspiracy theories.
It's very easy.
And I suppose that generally people around the world want some sort of answer to understand how and why things have happened. Now, no doubt in the region, especially with Syria, lots of things have been happening behind scenes. Not everybody understands, not everybody gets it. There's a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. You mentioned some major players in the region. Turkey.
Turkey, no. Yeah.
Now, the issue of Turkey, is there a specific benefit for them, number one,
In what?
in supporting Syria?
Oh, of course, sure.
Yeah.
Well, we can get to that. Yeah.
And the rumor is that Ahmed Al-Sharra and his family were flown out of Syria and is apparently in Turkey. Okay, this is a
right
rumor.
now?
Yeah, right now. Apparently, this was some of the news yesterday.
Okay.
And Erdogan was saying to Ahmed Al-Sharra for the last couple of days, you need to leave Syria, yeah? So you can see this. There is some closeness in the relationship between Erdogan and
Sure.
Ahmed Al-Sharra. Now, is this because of a political thing? Is this because of a brotherly love or something of that nature? But why is Turkey such a major player in the region, especially when it comes to Syria?
I'd like to think of it analytically. What I mean by that is, you'll very rarely see me or hear me talking about nations working with other nations just out of the goodness of their heart, or because of love, or because they're so chummy and, oh, this Muslim brother. That might be a component, but that's not a component one can analyze and quantify. So I put it aside and I say maybe it's modifying the relationship in some way, but let's put it aside. Look at the actual geopolitics. Analytically, let's look at it. Let's look at geopolitics from the Turkish perspective, Osman. Turkey or Turkey has spent the last 15 years, because of the Syrian civil war, with a very unstable neighbor in its south. Instability around a country is the next worst thing after instability within the country. So after your own borders are secure, which by the way the Turkish borders weren't because of the Kurdish separatists in the east, but that's a sort of long ongoing thing, which is coming to a resolution potentially, but we'll talk about that maybe in another episode or later today. The Turkish geopolitical situation is we had a very unstable administration, or lack thereof, in the south. As a result, people, just ordinary people, Syrians, thought, I need to get the heck out. I can't survive here. Like Bashar Assad's going on a mad one every day. Sijin said, nah, have you heard of the prison? It's horror made manifest. It's a living nightmare. So I can't risk all this. So millions of Syrians jumped across the border into Turkey. That's a huge influx of population, by and large unaccounted for, potentially economically inactive or economically not integrated into the Turkish economy. For Turkey, which is already economically not in the best position, its currency, the lira, is not doing too well. Hasn't been for quite a few years. The Turkish state does not benefit from this influx of war refugees, basically. And I'm looking at it not from a humanitarian perspective, as you can probably tell. I'm looking at analytically, economically, politically. It's not good. Erdogan has got millions, tens of millions of Turks unhappy with him because he's let in so many Arabs, and they're setting up shop in South Turkey. They've got shops with Arabic on it, and there was loads of sort of violent Turkish nationalists who said no Arabic, only Turkish. You can't have this language here. So there was a lot of tension. Now to go from that to I don't know. This is how phones used to look, by the way. Now it's like this. But I'm an old school, and Osman obviously old school as well. This is how phones used to look. Okay, you'd have to anyway. So they'll take a phone out, and they'll be like, "Yes, this is Recep Tayyip Erdogan. What's going on?" And they're like, "Yo, have you heard what's happening in Turkey? In Syria?" It's like, "No, what's happening?" Now, if Erdogan gets that phone call that says, "Your boys, the guys you backed, the North Syrian forces, the Idlib government, the administration, have now taken the capital. They're now going to run the country." It's absolutely in Turkey's or Turkey's best interest to support that government, because if Syria is stable, not talking humanitarian, not talking brotherly love, not talking Muslim, Ottoman Empire reborn. Not calm down, guys, calm down. I'm talking analytically for the Turkish state geopolitically. It's a huge win
if they have a stable, prosperous neighbor in the south. So it's in Turkey's best interest to assist or facilitate or support the stabilization of Syria. So to that end, it's absolutely in Erdogan's best interest to take good care of Ahmed Al-Sharra and his administration and try and help them keep control or gain control of the Syrian state as a whole, the Syrian nation. The big challenge to that is Israel, the other regional power, because it's like Israel, Syria, Turkey. So Turkey and Israel sort of have this sort of no man's land in between them. Syria in a fragmented state, and even now in its semi-unified state, it's a no man's land. So Israel's trying to push up from the south, and Turkey is pushing down from the north, saying that, Israel, you better, you can't just go all in. I won't allow that. Turkey would have a problem with Israel trying to exert dominance beyond Damascus, beyond South Syria. And you see that. You see Israel sort of holding back its punches a lot of the time because it knows that the Turks in the north, they won't just allow us to fully steamroll. So if Ahmed Al-Sharra's family and he was moved out, it might be because Erdogan needs to make sure that Syria does not fall. The current Syria, the new Syria, it does not fall. I made a couple of TikTok videos specifically about this. I said, Turkey has two options. They can support the Syrian state and ensure or boost the chances of stability, and that will benefit Turkey. Or they can think, and that might require them to go up against Israel, worst case scenario for the Turks. And they might have to choose, are we going to actually go up against Israel in some sort of kinetic combat, in a war, in a fight? If they choose to back down, they're choosing an option that says Israel is going to re-Balkanize Syria. It's going to fragment it again. And that's going to be bad for the Turks. Again, more Syrian refugees are going to come back in. The Syrian refugees that have gone home in the last 6 months, they're going to turn around, come back into Turkey. Very bad. And Erdogan's going to have his supporters and obviously the opposition screaming and shouting about it. Like, look, Syria's a mess again. Now we're going to have to suffer economically, and there's an influx of people. So Turkey is definitely a player with skin in the game. It directly harms or benefits Turkey if Syria is in one state or another. And Israel knows that it can't just go all out like it can in occupied Palestine. It can't go all out like it can in South Syria. The Turks are not to be messed with. Turkey is a NATO, US allied state with a powerful military industrial complex. It's got a heartland that's mountainous, geographically speaking is mountainous. Turkey is not an easy beast, and Turkey has spent decades, for better or worse, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. Turkey has, I'm just assessing it, Turkey has spent decades creating economic ties with Israel. And loads of people are unhappy with that from a sort of activist perspective, but analytically, what that means is they have power over Israel. If they at some point chose to cut those ties, it impacts Israel significantly. If Turkish ports are not made available to Israeli ships or Israeli flagged cargo, huge hit to Israel, and is significant. And Turkey, loads of people say Erdogan is just, they put it rudely sometimes, they say he's just a barking dog, One thing you have to understand about geopolitics is administrations wield their civilians like a weapon. Or they have to fight their own civilians if the administration wants to go against the citizen sentiment. Case in point, Saudi Arabia. The citizens in Saudi Arabia, they hate the actions the Saudi state are taking when it comes to getting closer to Israel, supporting them, not supporting the Palestinians. They hate it. So the Saudi administration has to actively fight their own citizens, actively repress them, shut up, like they have to keep them, scholars that talk about it, banned, jailed, deplatformed, Now, Turkey is in a different dynamic. Erdogan talks about Palestine. Look at how Erdogan talks about Palestine. Look at how Mohammed bin Salman talks about Palestine. Mohammed bin Salman is the administration head of Saudi Arabia, who said to the Qari, the speakers who give sermons, khutbas in the Haram. He said, don't talk about Palestine. This went on for, the better part of the last 2 years. He said, don't talk about Palestine. When he saw kefirs, on the shoulders or on the heads of the Umrah, Hajj goers, he said, no, he told the security forces, take them off. We can't have like Palestinian symbolism going on here. Don't cause a fitna. That was the Islamic, by the way, framing of it. Don't cause a fitna, make dua for them, but don't talk about it politically. Trust that your administration knows what it's doing. So it's having to fight its community, right? Its citizens. Turkey is completely different. Erdogan every single day is screaming and shouting about how Israel is the greatest problem in the region and we're going to absolutely flatten it and this and that. And people get frustrated. They're like, oh, I got excited when I first heard this guy. But he keeps talking like this and not doing anything. You have to understand. Turkey is holding cards. As soon as they do something, they have to give something up. So they haven't done anything. But the potential is there. The citizens are primed by Erdogan and his administration in Turkey. The citizens are primed. If Erdogan sort of just lets go, the citizens are going to just go all in, like, absolutely, we're ready to fight and die against the occupation, That's the situation. So that's a weapon that the Turkish state can wield against Israel to say, I've got economic ties with you, I might sever them, you're going to suffer. I'm going to suffer, but you're going to suffer. You don't care if I suffer, but you care if you suffer, obviously. And if you start a fight with me, my citizens are ready to, tear your... they're tearing their hair out because I can't let them tear your throat out. They're ready to fight you. So that's a threat. And if that is delivered, as the Arab saying goes, Usman, when the camel is down, the knives multiply. It's an interesting saying. It means where there was no threat, suddenly there's a threat because the camel is down, is weakened. So if Turkey, went into any sort of direct aggression against Israel, every single other nation in the region starts recalculating. Okay, the situation has changed. What are we going to do? Right? Egypt might think, what are we going to do? Not Egypt and Saudi Arabia. They're under American influence at the moment too much. But Yemen will reassess. South Lebanon and Lebanon generally, with the Lebanese paramilitary in the south, Hezbollah, they'll reassess. The Houthis in Yemen will reassess. Iran will reassess. Groups in Iraq will reassess. They'll all reassess the situation based on, 2 out of the 5 regional powers have just popped off against each other, right? That's bad for Israel. So Israel has a balancing act to play. I want to make sure that Syria doesn't unify, doesn't stabilize, and we'll talk more about that. That's what the Druze and the Bedouin conflicts currently are. Yeah. It's Israel weaponizing the Druze, arming them and saying, go fight for your master. I mean, go fight for yourself, for your liberation, for your freedom. Yeah. They're using the Druze to fight for the Israeli state. How? Because the Druze situated in the south of Syria, if the Israelis arm them and push them to fight their government, Ahmed Al-Sharra's government in Damascus, if they push them to fight the Bedouin locals in Suwaida Governorate, where the Druze are a significant player, is great for Israel. They continue to keep Syria unstable. Ahmed Al-Sharra's administration is trying to stabilize. Israel's trying to destabilize. Turkey's trying to help Syria stabilize, but it doesn't want to push the envelope too far because it doesn't want a kinetic war, because that's bad for the Turkish state. But if it gets to it, it might be forced into a decision. Do I go for a war to keep that objective of mine to stabilize Syria, or do I let Syria fragment again potentially, which is bad for me again, and obviously bad for the Syrians? But the Turks don't. Let's assume geopolitically the Turks don't care. Let's assume they only care about themselves. It's a very high tension situation, Osman, and I feel like we could talk about just this tension for hours.
Yeah, no. Again, we're talking about the region.
Yeah.
From the creation of the state of Israel, it's always had problems, issues, and they knew that was going to happen from day one. Anyway.
Surprise!
Right, okay.
When a foreign anyway, yeah.
So one situation, or one kind of common question is the fact that why is America so behind Israel
Oh, okay.
And why are they supporting them so much? Yesterday I saw figures from an American who was explaining how each state in America
Yes.
is given X amount of millions and billions
Yes.
to the state of Israel.
Easy answer, yeah.
Okay, and it's shocking because it's like America is suffering from homelessness,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
even starvation for people,
Yeah.
right? So why is
Sure.
it that
For
those
some, yeah.
millions and those billions that those states are giving, why can't they implement, use that for their citizens there? How is it these states are able to give so much money to a foreign country?
Very easy answer, Osman. Geopolitics again, right? Let's go back to geopolitics. Let's talk about American geopolitics. So America, from World War II, end of World War II onwards, America was the leading nation on the world stage. After World War II, Europe lay shattered, broken, unable to do anything other than just limp along. And America saw its opportunity geopolitically. It thought, okay, fine, I'm going to step up to the world stage. I'm going to become big boy. And it basically became a superpower. It implemented the Marshall Plan, which meant that it would economically help Western Europe recover economically in return for American dominance. You guys fall under my umbrella now. UK, Germany, France, the E3, as it's called, the Europe 3, the big three in Europe. You will fall under my tutelage, my protection. You're basically protectorate states, as you call them. You know, it's like a puppet state, but with more autonomy. Okay, so America grew into this globe-spanning empire, and the only opposition it had was the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union wasn't like completely collapsed like Western Europe after the war. And the Soviet Union rose to the challenge. It became a great power. So you had the US as a great power, then you had the Soviet Union as a great power. 1991, a few years before I was born, a few years after you were born, Osman, the Soviet Union collapsed. Yeah. So the US became the undisputed great power, which gave them superpower status. The only superpower, right? There's no others. In that situation, they were able to materialize their dream of having control everywhere on Earth, basically everywhere on Earth. So they had North America, they had Europe under its wing, they had East Asia under its wing. They've built a beautiful little necklace around China, the Philippines, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan. This is the American protectorate states, or states under American sphere of influence in the East Asian theater. In Middle East, same situation. They love the Middle East. They want to be a part of it because the oil's there. So they need freedom and democracy, of course.
Of course.
Only, by the way, only freedom as long as the people freely choose to align with us.
Okay.
Only democracy as long as you vote to support me.
Yeah.
If there's democracy that leads to misalignment with the US has always come in where it can and removed that democracy and reimposed a dictatorship or authoritarianism. The people weren't ready. The people weren't ready, Osman.
Yeah,
You
of
can't,
course.
what are you going to do? The people weren't ready to choose correctly.
Yes.
So we took away their choice. So it's not about freedom and democracy, remember, right? Because they didn't mind Egypt, Mohammed Morsi collapsing and then Abdel Fattah al-Sisi coming into power. They didn't mind, for example, Iran being under a dictatorship, and they were really unhappy when Iran chose democracy and then used democracy to choose to move away from the West. So they reimposed dictatorship, the Shah of Iran, after 1953 up to 1979. Then the Iranians revolted again. Now you have the Islamic Revolution that America hates because it's not aligned with America. It's not a puppet state to America. So in the Middle East, America got this offer. Britain said, look, I've given these people a state of their own in the Middle East. It's like a little foothold, a cute little foothold for the West. But I've not got the strength, the vigor anymore, the British said, to manage an empire. The crown jewel in my empire, India,
Right.
has just broken away from me. I can't manage Israel. Okay, I can't take care of it anymore. I don't need it anymore. I don't need an empire. I can't afford one. I'm going to just slink back to my island nation of the British Isles. I'm going to live out my retirement years there.
Right.
So America said, no problem. I'm the rising star. I'm the healthy, strong man. I'll take control and I'll support Israel. And they did. They used Israel as a launch pad to be able to better control the Middle East for American imperialism. Some point down the line, Osman, the tables turned, because now America has lobbying groups. You have big pharma, you have big tech, big ag, which is big agriculture. You have the NRA, the National Rifles Association. You have healthcare, well, that's big pharma, I suppose. And you have AIPAC, one of the biggest lobbies in Israel. AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Or I used to think it's Political Action Committee, but it doesn't matter. AIPAC, AIPAC, is a lobby group in America that supports the Israeli interest in US politics. They have a spectacular amount of money and influence which they wield to make sure congressmen, senators, and even the president is aligned with AIPAC and therefore aligned with the Israeli state. So this is where the sort of dramatic statement, America's under occupation, United States of Israel, this is where it comes from, this idea, because AIPAC has so much influence, Usman. And it uses that influence to pick the right senators, to pick the right congressman, to pick the right president that will support Israel. Which is why, even to this day, America strongly supports Israel by and large. But we've actually come to a very interesting turning point, I have to tell you now. Israel is in absolute internal panic mode when it comes to America. It's got so many things to worry about. America's a big one on their list, okay? And not many people know this. Israel sees that in America, we're losing the people. And America is a democracy, even if a flawed one. A flawed one because it's got a lot of, lobbying, and lobbying is just a nice way of saying bribing. You can just pay money and you can change votes.
Legitimate bribe.
It's legal bribing, but not everything legal is ethical, right? It was legal, segregation was illegal. White people, black people, that was legal in apartheid South Africa, in the United States. Well, legal doesn't mean it was right. Anyway, so AIPAC is panicking. Israel is panicking because they're losing the citizens in America. And for the first time in American history, and for the first time in Israel's spectacularly short history, they're losing both sides, Usman. The Democrats, they were already skeptical of this blind check that's written to Israel whenever it wants, we need money. What do you need it for? To slaughter Palestinians. Say no more. How much do you need? That was this. The Democrats, by and large, opposed that. From before the Republicans did. But even now, Republican citizens, and as a result, Republican senators, Republican congressmen, there is shifting into a situation where the Republicans are saying, I thought it was America first. Do you see what's written on my cap? It's not Maya, it's not make Israel great again or whatever. It's MAGA, make America great again. That's what their cap says. Right. So you can't make America great again if you show me that people are starving, people are, on our streets, no job, no home, but we've got millions, billions for Israel. You're having a laugh, mate. They don't say that because that's not an American thing, but they say not on my watch. I don't know what they say, actually. It's a terrible accent, sorry. So American right-wingers are unhappy with AIPAC and Israel. They want more prioritization for America, and this stresses Israel the heck out, because if they lose America as their number one ally, they're in trouble. They're in huge trouble, and I'll tell you why. But before I tell you why, I'll tell you, the Republicans have key figures. If you look up Tucker Carlson, is a very key Republican figure. He was very pro-Trump, very supportive. He's got his own podcast. He's sitting down with interviews with Masoud Pezeshkian, Iran's president, and he's asking all these questions of Ted Cruz. He's like, what's the demographics in Iran? Tucker Carlson is adding to that pressure that as Americans, we shouldn't care about Israel above us. And loads of Americans are like, yeah, that makes sense. See, because there's American geopolitics going on in the States, and that's causing a shift in sentiment, which might lead, Israel hasn't felt the impact yet, Usman, because politics is a slow game. It takes time. So if the citizens are unhappy with something now, you'll know about it 5 years from now when there's next elections and next congressmen and the next senators come in. You'll know about it then. You won't know about it now. It won't change now. The government stays as it is. There's a delay. But Israel's worried because their time of undisputed blind support from America is coming to an end. And that's really bad for them. Why is it really bad? Because if America leaves the Middle East and stops supporting Israel, that's the situation where Israel might be down and the knives might start multiplying because they are in hostile territory. They are a foreign ethnic group with a foreign culture, a Western culture, in a non-Western place, in a group where their ethnicity is not native. You know, Jews didn't suddenly leave the Middle East and come back with a different skin color, different language, different culture 3,000 years later just because it was promised to me. I can't roll up, Usman, to Ethiopia, knock on some random door in Addis Ababa and say, okay, I need your family to leave. This is my house now. And, people in Ethiopia will be like, sorry, who are you and why are you here? I'm like, originally, because all humans are technically from Africa, originally I'm from here. And this house was promised to me 5,000, no, maybe more, 7,000 years ago, so I'm going to need you to leave. That's not going to fly. That's not a thing. So the only reason why Israel survives and can sort of establish itself and grow is because of this huge pressure against the norm, the pressure of American support, of the Western world support. If that support goes and Israel is, left to its own accord, the natural balance of the region will pressure it into basically just disintegrating as a state in its current form. It won't be able to manage. It won't be able to stay a state as it currently is without external support to push it against the natural balance of the region. That's why you need Israel to. That's why Israel needs to be so repressive, so imposing, so harmful to the natives, because it's such an unnatural dynamic that they've made the norm. The unnatural dynamic requires extreme repression and pressure to keep it at that stage, to keep it at that equilibrium, that balance. As soon as the pressure is removed, it sort of pops like a balloon. So it needs America at a time when America's sort of drifting away from it. That's panicking Israel to no end.
Lebanon.
Yeah.
We'll come to Egypt in a minute.
Sure.
But Lebanon. One thing that surprises me about Lebanon is that first question is why is Israel deciding to bomb the south of Lebanon? And I kind of got the answer to that anyway, but why is Lebanon not protecting its border? Why is Lebanon as a country not pushing back the Israelis?
It can't. It's not got the ability. So the Lebanese government...
It has no army?
Lebanon has an army that's, compared to Israel, ineffective. They can't manage anything. They can't manage it.
Does Lebanon not have any kind of supporters internationally?
Lebanon has been historically supported by the Western powers, in particular France, because it was part of the French mandate, meaning when the Ottomans lost the First World War, their territories in the Arab world, the Levant, as it's called, the Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Palestine region, Jordan, that was sort of carved up by the Brits and the French because, they love, carving up and saying, oh, this is yours, this is yours. It was never yours in the first place to give away, but yeah, sure, why not? Once you have the ability, you can do what you want. That's my first rule of geopolitics. I say rules are built and bent and broken by those who have the power to do so. There is no universal law. There's no rule you can't break. If you have enough muscle and enough money, you can break whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. No problem. So anyway, Lebanon has historically French backing, but this was when the French wanted a foothold in the Middle East for themselves as well.
Yeah.
So they activated the history of Lebanon. They looked through Lebanon's long and colorful history, said, where can we pick a portion of the history that makes them resonate with us? So they thought, they were Phoenicians. This Phoenician history, let's exaggerate that. Let's build on that. Tell the Lebanese, wow, your roots are in Greece and the European, enlightened Europe, and so you sort of came over here into Lebanon. Let's activate that history and keep them thinking that they're foreigners to the region. They're not foreigners, but let's tell them they are, so that they sort of want their own country. They want to stay with them, so they don't want to be part of Syria, for example. And that, you see, nowadays is accurate. Lebanon is Arabized, but it's not Arab. Lebanon has significant numbers of Christians, Maronite Christians specifically. But you know what, Usman? Most people don't know this. Do you know that in Lebanon, the Prime Minister, the President, and the Speaker of the House have to be from 3 different religions? You know that? Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Why? Why does the President have to be a Maronite Christian, the Prime Minister has to be a Sunni Muslim, and the Speaker of the House has to be a Shia? What is that? Do you have that here in the UK? Do you have that here in France? No. They put that on their colonial subject because it helps them keep the divides between our ethnicities and our communities entrenched. It keeps the Christians thinking they're separate from the Muslims. It keeps the Muslims thinking they're separate from each other, the Sunnis and the Shias. Right? So that's the Lebanon that was engineered by the French. They activated a portion of Lebanese history and they said, okay, now you're going to be super unique. You're not part of Syria. You're not part of the wider region. You are, specifically Lebanon. Now, after the French sort of left, because they don't need a foothold anymore, France, just like the UK, is in retirement mode. We're back in our country. We don't really have an empire. Though France still does economic antics in North Africa. But the point is, in Lebanon, they don't have a state backing from the Western powers that will back them against Israel, because Israel has the primary Western state backing. You can't back two sides. If they fight each other, you'll have to pick which one to back. So Lebanon's military is so weak, not insultingly, analytically I'm saying. It's so weak, there is no reality where Lebanon as a state at a government level can stand up to Israel and say, you're not allowed to do this, here's my red line. There is no red line, okay? Whenever Israel wants it bombs Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, whenever it wants it hits the north, it hits the south, Lebanon is just a cute little buffer for Israel. The only reason they haven't fully invaded and taken over is because the demographics in Lebanon won't allow for that. They're not Jewish. They're not Ashkenazi Jews. They're not Western in the way the Israelis are Western. So they could invade, they could fully take it, but another part of geopolitics is understanding military dynamics. If you invade and take a region, but you can't hold it, it becomes a liability to your state.
Right.
So Israel could take and hold Lebanon all the way up to Turkey, the Turkish border. But now what? You can't hold it. The Christians are going to flip on you. The Maronite Christians are going to go mad. The Muslim Sunnis are going to go mad. Everyone's going to go mad. And the hardliners in Lebanon will be like, you see, this is what I was telling you. Look, Israel's evil. And they'll get more funding and more support for those who will actually directly fight back against the Israeli state. Now, why does Lebanon bomb and attack the south? Because in the south of Lebanon is I call it a Lebanese paramilitary group. So not a state-backed military, but a group with militaristic capabilities, lethal capabilities. Hezbollah. Hezbollah is aligned to Iran, gets support from Iran because Iran knows that someone that can deliver pain occasionally, that can place pressure on Israel is strategically fantastic for me. So I'll keep funding Hezbollah. Even though my economy is struggling, I'll still fund them because it's necessary to keep Israel contained, right? So Hezbollah in the south, fun fact, Hezbollah is not a terrorist organization in a political capacity. They actually are in Lebanese parliament as a party, like Labour in the UK. Hezbollah has a party, but they also have a military wing that operates in the south, independent of the state. That's a bit of a flexible one, you could say. So Israel sees that as a threat. They need to constantly hit Hezbollah capabilities, try and degrade them. Otherwise, anytime something pops off with someone else, Hezbollah might come in. You see, Usman, Israel's got a lot to worry about. Imagine you and I are fighting. Now, a 10-year-old here is not a threat to me. But if you and I are fighting, we're locked in a fight, and you give this 10-year-old a set of sharp pencils, he might come and stab me with those pencils. That's a problem for me, right? So naturally, directly, he's not a problem for me. But if I'm in a fight with someone else and he comes in and starts stabbing me on my side, even a 10-year-old can do some damage, especially if you give him a knife now, forget pencils. That's what Hezbollah is to Israel. They need to keep Hezbollah in check in South Lebanon. Otherwise, they're a threat. If Israel gets into some madness with Turkey, very unlikely, but potential, if they get into another madness, round 2 with Iran, at the time of this recording, Iran and Israel had a conflict, a 12-day war in June. It might pop off again, as my analysis says it likely will. they get into something else with Iran. Then they have the Houthis do stuff. Hezbollah activates itself, and then the Palestinians realize, bruv, now's our chance. We need to do something in the West Bank, a third Intifada, whatever. I'm just analyzing. I'm not supporting. I'm not calling for anything crazy, man. Yeah, but I'm not calling for it either. I mean, it's up to you guys. I'm just, so Israel has to keep Hezbollah in check so that they can't just pop off whenever something else happens. So it's a worry. Israel's got so many things to worry about, man.
But is Hezbollah? They seem very quiet.
At the moment, they are, because their capabilities were significantly degraded over the last few years, and also Iran used the 1/3 of Syria that was aligned to it under Assad as a pit stop. Iran would send stuff into Syria. It would be in Bashar al-Assad's territory, then it will be transferred to Hezbollah. They don't have that pit stop anymore because Ahmed Al-Sharra's government can't allow Iran to use it as a pit stop at the moment, because the Western powers will be like, you've just aligned with Iran, and then Ahmed Al-Sharra will be in a situation where he can't get the West to lift sanctions. You know, everything we talked about earlier. For his economic benefit, Ahmed Al-Sharra can't align with Iran, not yet at least. But some of my analysis shows the end game, the mid-end game, is that Syria does once again realign with Iran, which is why the people that get upset that Bashar al-Assad falling meant that Iran's no longer got a foothold in the Levantine region. I'm like, calm down. You don't actually have much to be upset about, because Syria doesn't necessarily, under its current government, is not necessarily opposed to Iran. Syria actually could work with Iran, because Syria's enemy is Israel. They can't talk about it that way. They have to negotiate with them, otherwise they'll be invaded, and they'll never be able to unify and prosper achieve prosperity for their nation. But their natural enemy, Syria's natural enemy, is Israel, and Iran's natural enemy is Israel. So now you're both on the same side. So just chill a bit, bro. Like now, some bros are a bit too, like, oh, Assad falling. The Assadists who say, when Assad fell, look at what's going to happen to Syria now. And I'm like, hang on, calm down, watch what happens, because the gambit's already been played. They've already tried. The civil war's over. Now let's see what happens. There's no point talking about Assad. Assad's gone. He's in Moscow. Go speak Russian to him if Putin lets you.
That was my next question. Coming on to my next question, the issue of Iran. I had to say
Iran.
No, Iran. Yeah, that's the way the Iranians say it.
Oh, okay.
I was able to say it like that. But anyway, going on to Iran. The 12-day war.
Yes.
Was that staged, or did it actually happen? Because it seems so weird. Like, for example, they're throwing bombs, then they're throwing bombs at each other, and the next minute the Americans come in as well. Then the Iranians say to the Americans, "Hello, Trump. We're going to go to Qatar to drop a couple of bombs, just to let you know.
A couple of big ones.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Kind of thing. Thank you so much. And Trump said, "Thank you so much for letting me know." Right.
I've got the details for you. There's a lot of confusion. Geopolitics, Usman, for those who learn it, it irons out a lot of the confusion. Things make sense. I'm not happy with things, but I'd rather be unhappy but understand it than just be confused and upset. And I'll tell you how the 12-day war works out in geopolitics. I'll give you a summary, because I've done probably 80 videos, 80 up to 10-minute long videos each on just the 12-day war.
Allahu Akbar.
Honestly, I've got so much content now. I don't even... the other day I checked on TikTok. I've got over 700 videos now.
Allahu Akbar.
Usman, I'm like, what? When did I find the time to do all that? That's ridiculous. 700... Anyway. So I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of understanding. I hope it is genuine. May Allah guide me. May Allah guide us all. Here's the summary of the 12-day war. Israel's geopolitical imperative, its mission, is to establish strategic depth for its country. Israel is a small country. Some may say it's not even a country, but anyway, Israel's de facto, the reality on the ground. Israel is a small country. It's is just on the coast of the Mediterranean, fairly indefensible flat land. The parts that are defensible, the West Bank, or as they call it, Judea and Samaria, is very hilly. That could be defensible, but it's full of Palestinians. That's their problem, the natives. The Golan Heights are quite a defensible position, which is why they take it and they continue to hold it from Syria. From that height, you can basically see it all around you. Anyway, My point is, Israel needs to expand in terms of its control of territory if it wishes to survive post-America. America, you see, is, as it's falling from, you see, there's so much that's connected, but I'll try and summarize it. America is falling, or has fallen, from its superpower status, Usman, into great power status. China is a great power, America is a great power. And they're going to sort of bump up against each other. Now, America needs to focus its resources on the Pacific to counter Zhongguo, China, the titan of Asia. It can't afford to be in Europe. It can't afford to be in the Middle East. So it's phasing out its influence. Israel sees this. And Israel doesn't care about America or China. Israel's thinking, nafsi, only me or nafsi, right? So Israel's thinking, how do I survive past America leaving? The answer is, I need more strategic depth. I need more country. Otherwise, if I get invaded, it's 5 minutes to Tel Aviv from any direction. How am I supposed to defend that country? Do you get my point? If Israel has no American backing, and tomorrow, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, a more economically prosperous Egypt aligned with China and the global south and the developing world there, if they decide they're going to invade through the Sinai, Jordan suddenly gets some ideas. You know, his king, Abdullah, has spoken to the other Gulf monarchies and decided the Jordan border with the West Bank and Israel proper, they're going to invade from the east. The Turks invade from the north, because no one wants this outsider, violent, militaristic ethno-state in their region anymore, in their backyard. They all come in together. And America's nowhere to be seen. I'll simply lose. I have no ability to stop that, except with the threat of Jericho missiles. Jericho is the Israeli nuclear deterrent. Right. Israel has nuclear weapons. They can say, if you invade me, if you overthrow my administration, I'm going to nuke all your capitals. You're all over. We're all going down together. They might say that. But that's not really... You don't want to have just one exit, and that exit means that if I die, everyone else dies. You want to not die. Now, to not die, you need to expand your sphere of influence. You need to expand your territory. The one country right now in the Middle East that prevents Israeli expansion at the level they want in 5 years, in 10 years, in the future basically, the one country that stands in open opposition, the one bastion of resistance, is the Islamic Republic of Iran. Every other country is under Western influence. Give me the name of a country, I'll tell you it's under Western influence. Turkey, Western, NATO. Saudi, Western, NATO. Are you kidding? Egypt, Western, NATO. Under, not NATO, sorry, but Western. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi takes money from America. In fact, Egypt is, fun fact, the second largest beneficiary of US foreign military aid after Israel. After Israel, the Americans pay Egypt to stay quiet. Like, please don't attack our bestie. Right? So they're all under American influence to some extent, and you know, fun fact, we won't have time maybe, but they're all drifting out of American influence actually. So that's a, you know, you could say
including Egypt.
They're drifting out of American influence, but that's for better or worse. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But that doesn't matter at the moment. The point is, Iran needs to fall if Israel wants to achieve anything for its future in 5 years, 10 years when America's gone. Now, Israel sees its window of opportunity closing. They see that Americans are backing out. So it's now or never. So they attacked. They attacked Iran publicly. Their war goal was, we're going to neutralize Iran's nuclear capabilities.
Okay.
Impossible, Usman. Impossible. Iran, now geopolitics, the first part is geo. Why is it called geo? Geography. Iran is a fortress, Usman. It's unbeatable. It's unbeatable with the war goals that Israel has. I'll tell you that much. It's not completely unbeatable, but it's the Zagros and Alborz mountain ranges that make Iran unassailable. The US, during its superpower years, couldn't take out Afghanistan. Iran's like 5 times as deadly, if not more. So how are you gonna take out Iran? And not even the US is fighting Iran. Israel, its sort of lackey, is fighting Iran. It's not going to be able to. But they're running out of time. The window of opportunity is closing, right? America's on its way out. So Israel's actual war goal is not to neutralize the nuclear capabilities of Iran. Its actual war goal is start a fight with Iran, poke Iran often enough so that the Persian lion just backhands me out of frustration, and then my cheek is red and I run to Big Daddy America, be like, look, they slapped me so hard, please Daddy help. And then America's dragged into the war. Now we're cooking as Israel would like. Now they've got America in the war. They can use America. They can throw America at Iran, hopefully, and they can achieve regime change. They can collapse the Iranian state, and they can balkanize it. The word we use, they can break Iran up into its Arab northeast. There's Arabs in Iran somewhere, in the southwest. They can make the Baloch sort of split off towards Pakistan. They can fund or fuel an uprising, and in the chaos of when the Iranian government falls, which is what Israel wanted, Israel will use its agents, will use its very powerful intelligence capabilities to make sure no unified Iran ever rises again. With their public enemy in the region, number one, down, their future is looking several watts brighter, right? But they failed. In the 12-day war, they started it. Analytically speaking, loads of people say I'm blindly pro-Iranian. No, I'm just analytical. I'll be analytical. Israel attacked. They had war goals, some stated, some hidden, you could say. For the attacker to come in, nuclear armed, be backed up by the US, nuclear armed, against a state that is not nuclear armed, as far as any community in the world knows, for after 12 days for them to concede, okay, fine, ceasefire. It's a clear loss, Usman. It's what is called an effective defeat, not a total defeat, because Israel didn't go and sign papers that say we absolutely got defeated. What do you want, Iran? It's not that, but it's a effective defeat because they didn't achieve their war goals at all. The Iranian regime is stronger today than it was before the June 13th attacks by Israel. The Iranian regime has publicly stated, we are absolutely not giving up our nuclear capability. Their parliament, their president already signed off legislation in Iran saying, we're going to step away from the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, threatening basically that we might go nuclear in terms of military capability. We might take our nuclear program and turn it into a nuclear weapons program. Fun fact, Iran at a state level officially doesn't say we want nukes, doesn't say we have nukes. They say we just have a civilian nuclear program, for energy purposes or medical purposes. But they could flip that any day and they could say, no, okay, we got a bomb now. What? Now what? They could do it, right? Israel failed. Why? The biggest reason why Israel failed, Osman, America was not willing to support them. Loads of people hear that America was, America did step into the war. They brought in their B-2 bombers. They dropped GBU-57 MOPs, massive ordnance penetrators, bunker-busting bombs, as they say. Yeah, but how the conversation went was more like, America, I need your help, please. I cannot beat Iran. Why am I giving him an Eastern European accent? Because, he's from Poland, right? He's not actually from the region. So just bear with me. He's not actually got a European accent. But this is Benjamin Netanyahu. America, please, I need your help. And Trump was like, Benny boy, my people will not allow me. I can't help you against Iran. Yeah, that was me trying to say Iran. Because they don't say Iran, they say Iran and Iraq. Anyway, Trump basically said, I'm giving you an airstrike. I'm dropping, bombs that you don't have, using airplanes that no one has, the B-2 bombers. But this is all you can ask of me. Don't ask me for any more, Netanyahu, because my people won't let me, right? Even the Republicans are becoming anti-Israel. I can't be seen bringing America into another war. I came to power, Trump says, on Make America Great Again and America First and no more wars. I'm like flipping the table on all of those if I join a war and then get into a ground invasion with Iran. Like, I can't do it. And also, geostrategically for America, China will be watching. No one's acting in isolation. China will be just sitting there stroking its long, like, goatee beard, thinking, oh, if America gets involved in the Middle East, Taiwan needs a bit of reunifying, I think. then America can't fight wars on two fronts again, especially against China. Flipping China is going to absolutely stomp them in the East Asian, the Pacific theater. So, Israel was too late. When I talked about the windows closing, American support is running out, the Israelis are running out of time. They've run out of time. They've actually run out of time. Because America wasn't willing to support them against Iran. So, the Israelis seeing after 12 days, that America is only willing to give us one airstrike. They're not willing to help us on a ground invasion. And while we're fighting Iran, we've got our air superiority. We're flying over Tehran, no problem. We're striking whatever we want on the ground. But the Iranians they're firing missiles back.
Yeah.
They've got the Khaybar Shakans. They've got the Khorramshahr is the same thing. They've got the Fatah missiles. They've got hypersonic missiles traveling 15 times the speed of sound that can maneuver near the end so that our interceptors can't hit them.
Yeah.
We've got 5. The Israelis thought we've got 5 interceptors, Usman. We've got the Patriots from the US. We've got the THAADs. We've got the Arrow. We've got David Sling. We've got Iron Dome. Iron Dome's acting like an iron sieve. Arrow is pointing straight to Ben Gurion Airport so people can fly out with their dual nationalities. David Sling can't stop a thing. They had 5 layers of air defenses and it still wasn't more successful than 95% at intercepting all the missiles. And if your success rate is 95%, that means 5% is still getting through. That's a problem. That's a problem, especially for the democratic, westernized, comfy lifestyle Israeli citizens. They're not used to what Iranians are used to. Iranians have spent 50 years under sanctions, Usman. They're used to keeping their belts tightened. They're used to struggling to support their government against the Western imperials. And you know what? Even those Iranians that hate their government, they say, we don't want the Ayatollahs and the mullahs ruling us. The sort of secular Iranians.
Yeah.
Even they got behind their government, Usman.
Yeah.
It was the ultimate own goal for Israel. Even they got behind their government because they said, okay, we're not happy with the Shah. Well, sorry, not the Shah. We're not happy with Ayatollah Khamenei and his government. But damn if I'll let Israel tell me who to be governed by. No way.
Right.
So Israel completely owned gold themselves. They couldn't do anything else, but their gambit failed. Basically, is what I'm saying. After 12 days, they agreed to a ceasefire because their population won't tolerate those missiles hitting, landing in. There's videos now publicized by Sky, Al Jazeera, CBN, CNN, Israeli TV news like Haaretz, I-24. They're showing missiles hitting home in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, in Beersheba, in Jerusalem. They can't take that for long. After 12 days, Israel assessed the situation. They're like, what's our situation? And their ministers are like, well, our cities are being pummeled and geographically we're really small. Most of our civilians live in like 5 cities anyway. And we can't stop rockets beyond 95% success rate. And we're running out of flipping interceptor missiles. There was a report by the Israelis saying we have 2 weeks left of Iron Dome missiles left. After that, if the US doesn't ship us more, we're just naked. We're just completely exposed. We can't intercept a thing, right? They were in that situation. Okay, now let's look at our enemy. Let's look at how the enemy is doing. Because, in a boxing fight, if you're bloodied and you're weak, but your enemy's weaker, maybe you'll feel a bit more motivated to carry on. Let's look at Iran. Iran's like, what? You got control of our skies, okay? But we live underground. All of our nuclear technology is hundreds of meters underground where you can't reach it, where America can't reach it. And we've already seen that America's not willing to support you. So what are you going to do now? Yeah, you have control over our skies, but you've galvanized our population to support our government. And we've spent the last 45 years preparing for exactly what you're doing to us right now. We've prepared for this exact situation. You tried to decapitate our leadership by assassinating our civilians, civilian nuclear scientists, by assassinating our generals. We were ready. There's no surprises, Israel. We knew, the Iranians knew that the Israeli intelligence is so capable. They knew that the Israeli Air Force is beyond capable. So keeping that in mind, they've completely configured their state to be resilient to decapitation strikes. Every general was a walking shaheed shaheed in waiting. The generals knew, me being the head of the armed forces means I'm a target. And Israeli Mossad is everywhere. Israeli intelligence is everywhere. So they will kill me. But that's okay. My next in line knows exactly how to run things. His next in line knows exactly how to run things. How many are you going to assassinate? So Israel saw, we're struggling. Iran's like, bro, I'm just getting ready for a fight. I thought this was the prelude. I thought, is the movie started already? I thought these were just the opening credits. If there's Russia was asked famously, why didn't you help Iran? Russia said they didn't ask for help yet. they don't, it's only 12 days in. They didn't need help, Usman.
Yeah.
So when Israel hears that, it's sheer panic. They're like, what do you mean they didn't? We're almost exhausted, and you're saying they're just getting warmed up. So we can't handle that. Okay, sign a ceasefire. They have to, because Israel militarily they have high alpha strike damage. They can hit hard, very hard. They've got intelligence to make their punch even harder. I talked about this in my TikTok videos. They used their intelligence and sabotage capabilities to disable key anti-air installations in Iran to to allow Israeli jets to take a route that allows them to bomb their targets and fly out and establish air superiority. So Israel has huge capabilities for that initial punch, but it's not got stamina, Usman. It's like a sprinter, not a marathon runner.
Yeah,
Iran is the marathon runner. Israel is the sprinter. After it sprinted, it saw that they basically have to win in 12 days. If they can't win in 2 weeks, khalas, they have to call it a day, which they did. So the longer it goes on for any conflict, the better it is for Iran. The shorter it is, better it is for Israel. And so that's just the way things unfolded.
So what was the point of the phone call to Trump to say we're going to bomb?
Sorry, yeah, I said I was going to be short. I said I was going to be short, and I wasn't. And then I also didn't cover everything you asked for. It reminds me of Sami Hamdi. You know, Sami Hamdi is a guy, a brother who's very intelligent, very capable, way more experienced than the vast majority of us, obviously, including myself, in terms of analysis. He says, he's got this famous phrase now. He says, and I'll finish on this point, and then he goes on for another half an hour. So I feel like I'm unfortunately following in that bad habit. But yeah, so to answer the question, how the 12-day war ended was, and to understand why it ended this way, I have to say something. Israel, geopolitically, geostrategically, wants a war. Like I said, because it needs to expand its sphere of influence, it needs to take down Iran. So it wants war. Iran doesn't want war. Iran's objective is to keep the peace. And America's objective in the Middle East is also, funnily enough, to keep the peace. So they're actually on the same side. Iran and America, on this objective of not being at war in the Middle East, are on the same side. Iran doesn't want war because it wants to spend time tying its economy to China and expanding, economically lifting itself out, which will mean it's richer, which will mean it can pay for more military advancements and work with China on that. So Iran, the longer it goes in peace, the longer the country can maintain peace with its regional neighbors like Israel, the better for Iran. America, as I said already, America wants to focus on a potential war with China, and its civilians don't want to support Israel in a random new Middle East war. So America wants peace. So Iran wants peace, America wants peace. How are we going to get peace? So America was in a situation where Israel is pressuring it through AIPAC to step into the war. So they did step into the war with the B-2 bombers and the bunker busters that they dropped, 14 I believe, on Natanz, Isfahan and Fordow, the nuclear sites of Iran. But Trump, some say, in advance, called Iran. Yo, Iran. Or Iran. I'm going to bring a few bunker busters. No, sorry. I'm going to drop a few bunker busters. Just letting you know in advance. Iran was like, say no more. And they moved their nuclear material. There's evidence across Western media outlets, as well as other media outlets, saying there's evidence that Iran was told in advance by the American administration that they were going to use B-2 bunker busters on those 3 nuclear sites. So they moved their enriched uranium and their critical equipment out, and then America came in. And Iran said, thank you, that was very kind of you. But we're going to have to respond now. You know, our population has just seen America step into this war. You've kinetically attacked us. We're going to have to do something in return. And America said, yeah, okay, fine. In the back channels, this is how the conversation goes. Publicly, this is not how the conversation goes. But in the back channels, America said, yeah, I understand. Your people want a retaliation. It makes sense. So what are you going to do? Iran said, listen, I'm going to have to hit a base. I'm going to have to hit one of your American bases. But after I do, let's just call it quits, yeah? And America's like, say no more, bro. Say no more. I got you. Just let me know which one in advance so that no lives are lost and etc. etc. So Iran said, okay, fine. Al-Udeid, Qatar. I've chosen. America said, thank you for letting me know. America moved all its troops out of Al-Udeid, moved all its critical infrastructure out of Al-Udeid, and historically, Usman, just think about what this means. Iran attacked directly an American base because it fired at least six ballistic missiles, as intelligence suggests now. It's publicly actually corroborated. They launched 6 Iranian missiles at Al-Udeid, American airbase in Qatar. Why is there an American airbase in Qatar? That's another podcast episode.
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
they attacked Al-Udeid. The troops were gone. The missiles hit somewhere. I hear all of them were intercepted, but very recently it came out that maybe one wasn't. Anyway, They attacked, and America, you know, Trump, he says the quiet part out loud. Unfortunately, whatever.
Yeah.
You know that backroom conversation I just had, Iran and America talking in that way. You know, Trump took that conversation, sort of put it out in the open. On Truth Social / X Twitter, he said, "I want to thank Iran for letting us know in advance." America was like, "You don't say that part out loud, mate." Anyway, what's done is what's done. Khalas, ma fi mushkila, no problem. They said. So, understand what's just happened, Usman. Iran has attacked America, and America thanked them for letting them know in advance.
Yeah.
That's the world we're living in now. And what happened after that? Just like America and Iran agreed, I attacked your nuclear bases because I had to, because AIPAC was putting a lot of pressure on me to do something. So I did it, and then I said to Netanyahu, no more. And Iran, you had your population to appease. You had to show that you can respond. You won't just let America attack you directly without responding. So you responded. You attacked Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Let's call it a day. Let's ceasefire this thing. And they agreed. Why did they agree? Why did it look so staged? Because it was staged. The last part was staged. Yeah. Because America and Iran both want peace, and they got it. They got peace. They orchestrated the tit, American tit for Iranian tat. The tit for tat was orchestrated. It was done nice and tidily. No casualties. No one died. Right? Then
surprisingly.
Well, it's not surprising if you know that behind the scenes they
unsurprisingly, sorry.
Unsurprisingly, yeah. So, and then they called it a day on the conflict. But it's just a ceasefire. It's not a peace deal. And Israel, as I said before, America wants peace. Iran wants peace. Israel doesn't want peace. So Israel's going to start something up again, very likely.
Yeah.
They started up on June 13th. Before June 13th, when the Israelis attacked with their F-35 Adir variants, American funded and American provided warplanes, state of the art, obviously 5th generation. Before Israel attacked on June 13th, they actually begged America to join them. They said, "Please come with us. Let's attack Iran together." And America was like, "Hell no." They're like, "Fine, screw it, I'll do it myself." But then they asked for help after, because they have to.
Yeah, of course, of
but,
course.
So they might do that again. They might come in for round 2 again. There's intel showing that they're purchasing more Israeli defense missiles. David Sling Arrow Systems, a contract just got renewed because they're gearing up for round 2.
Is it American again?
Well, yeah, of course, American like missiles, interceptor missiles being purchased by the Israeli state. Yes. So they're gearing up for round 2. They're gearing up for more interception of future missiles. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. We're coming towards the end
Sure.
of the podcast. I've picked up from our short conversation, even though it's a very long conversation.
Short, relatively speaking, yeah.
Yeah. There is so much to speak about. There's so much to discuss. You know, there's just so much in this.
Yeah.
It's evident that Israel is going to continue poking
That's right.
other regional powers. Their dream is probably to take southern Lebanon, I think.
Okay.
They want to go more into Syria, probably up towards Damascus.
Yep.
And we've got the issue of places like Suwaida and the Druze. And then let's make it clear that the Druze is not the first time they've done this. They've done this previously as well, on the backing of Israel. But just to conclude now, how do you think Syria is going to be able to move on? I mean, its long-term stability, and will Mr. Sharra still be in that leadership?
I don't know if Ahmed Al-Sharra will remain in leadership for any number of months or years. He might even face assassination attempts by the Israeli state if they conclude that this man is too dangerous. He's too much of a smooth operator, because he knows the geopolitical game. He's not just screaming and shouting at the top of his lungs, which would make it easy for us to oppose him. He's actually trying to, dance with the Western powers. He's trying to dance with the regional powers like Turkey and Iran and Russia. He's too much of a smooth operator to let live. If Israel decides that, well, it makes sense then why Turkey is saying, "Okay, you better come stay with us for a bit," because things are looking a bit, heated in Syria, and Israel might try something. So I don't know how long Ahmed Al-Sharra might last in that position or on this earth, to be honest with you, analytically speaking. But assuming, it's a big assumption, but assuming that he continues and he lives and he stays in his position of power because internally he's not struggling in terms of his own administration. His own administration is well behind him, so he's got that unity. In terms of the future of Syria, Ahmed Al-Sharra's government, and this is not me being biased, you can look it up. Ahmed Al-Sharra's government signed a historic deal with the Kurdish in the northeast of Syria. He signed a deal saying that the Kurds are going to agree to lay down their arms. Unprecedented. That's an unprecedented step forward, Usman, for unity, in terms of Syrian unity. For the Kurds to say, okay, fine, we'll lay down our arms. Because he said, lay down our arms and obey us. That's not what he said. He said, come join us at the table in Damascus. In a table in Damascus, there's a few seats here. We've reserved for the Kurds. Come, take your seat.
Yeah.
And let's all build a Syria that's prosperous for all of us together. No foreign nonsense involved. And the Kurds were tempted. And they agreed to lay down their arms. Now, that process is still ongoing because they still have their arms. But
Of course, yeah.
they are laying them down to some extent. Turkey, at the same time, because it's relevant, I mention it, I move beyond the Syrian border.
Yeah.
The PKK, the Kurdish separatists in Turkey,
Yeah.
their leader, their founder, Ahmed Öcalan, announced just a few months ago, he said, I am calling on my own organization, the PKK, lay down your arms. Lay down your arms and work with the Turkish government. The time for separatist resistance is over. We can work together now, diplomatically,
And that's 100%.
democratically.
That's definitely Mr. Öcalan.
That's Ahmed Öcalan, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's insane progress. Turkey's been fighting the Kurdish separatists, the PKK, for 40 years. I wasn't even alive when they started. And now they're talking about signing and laying down their arms symbolically. Just in the last 2 weeks, I made a TikTok about it. Kurdish fighters went to a weapons burning ceremony. They burned their weapons symbolically, saying
They didn't
we're
look very
ready.
happy.
No, of course they weren't happy because loads of Kurds will see it as a defeat.
Yeah.
But other practical Kurds are saying we would rather live within Turkey and we all prosper than continue a fight where we don't get our independence but we don't get prosperity. We just keep shooting each other in the foot. That's not mutually beneficial. If we have to stay within Turkish borders but we get autonomy and we get some rights and we get economic privileges, that might be the best way forward for our community. It's a shrewd practical assessment of the situation. So for Syrian unity, Ahmed Al-Sharra's government has control of the 80% majority Sunni Muslim Arabs anyway. They're trying to make sure that the militias that still have their own arms, they're trying to incorporate them into the new Syrian Ministry of Defense. The Kurds in the northeast, they're trying to get them under control. In the south, the Druze and the Bedouins in the west, the Alawites, the Syrian statement publicly over and over again. Ahmed Al-Sharra, just a few days ago when he stood on a podium with Syrian flags behind, he said, the Druze are our people.
Yeah.
We will protect the minorities. Any militia group that attacks or kills the civilians or attacks even the military or other militias without the state's permission, they will be punished.
Yeah.
He's trying really hard to stabilize the situation. It's not easy. After 15 years of civil war, after 50 years of Alawite minority rule, after only 6 months in administration yourself, with Israel poking, continuously trying to, light new fires to keep you unstable. It's not easy, but he's still managing. So there is a very good chance he will achieve it. Economically, he's already working with the Western powers to lift sanctions. Even if he doesn't align the Syrian state with the Western economy, lifting sanctions is a boost. It's undisputed. China is looking ready to invest. Saudi Arabia has said, I will write off myself the Syrian government debt. 15 billion, I'll handle that for you. The Turkish are there to give the military assistance. They're like, whoa. These are our boys. We'll take good care of them, okay? That's why Israel can't really push as hard as it wants. It can't, go completely on a mad one. So the Syrian situation, there is a lot of hope, I think, for this, analytically speaking, for the Syrian people. There's a lot of hope. There's a risk because if Israel decides to commit more resources, seeing what I just described to you, as a peacemaker, as a unifier, as a shrewd geopolitical operator that knows he has to work with the West, he has to work with China, he has to work with potentially Iran and Russia. When the Syrians went south and took Damascus, why did the Russian jets not completely flatten their military convoys? sources suggest, as I talked about in my previous TikToks, which are now, you can't reach them because you have to scroll too long because I make too many videos, Usman.
Yeah.
But I suggested at the time that the North Syrian forces under Ahmed Al-Sharra, they spoke to Russia in advance, saying, look, let's be practical, Russia. The government in Damascus, we're about to take it, but we don't want any beef with you.
Yeah.
So Russia said, okay, what do you want from us? And they said, okay, just don't attack us as we go down. We try to take the capital of our country, please. What can we give you in return? Russia said, okay, Latakia and Tartus, we have military bases there, you don't touch them, Is that okay? And Syria said, say no more. And so you saw that the Russian bases in Latakia and Tartus were not attacked by the North Syrian, Free Syrian Army, North Syrian forces. And then Russia quietly sort of demilitarized those ports, those port military garrisons. So Ahmed Al-Sharra is a very smooth geopolitical operator who seems to know what he's doing. Israel might think that's a threat. We need a madman who's screaming and shouting and, he's ready to go on jihad for, us against us right now. We need that because we can fight that. And we can say to the West, look, there's a nutter in power. We need to take him over. The West will say no more, go. There's another nutter. We've seen loads of nutters. But Ahmed Al-Sharra is not acting like a nutter. The most smooth, calm, practical operators are the most deadly for Israel. That's why I think Muhammad or Khalil Mahmoud Barghouti. Do you know Barghouti? The Barghouti Palestinian family. It's a political class of people. There's a man who is said to potentially be the first president of a unified Palestine.
Okay.
The first president of a Palestinian state. He's currently sitting in an Israeli jail. If you listen to his rhetoric, he says Israel absolutely has a right to exist. We want a two-state solution. And he's in jail. He's a huge fat threat to the Israelis because they can fight the group that says we want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. But they struggle to fight with a group that says we are absolutely for a two-state solution. They struggle because the Western powers even will be like, okay, that's quite reasonable actually. We can actually back that. So that's the deadly enemy for the Israeli state. And so in Syria, same situation. The deadly enemy is a calm, composed, intelligent individual that doesn't fall for the rhetoric, doesn't go into activist mode, waving a banner and frothing at the mouth for jihad against the Israelis and the decimation of the occupation. The most dangerous enemy is the one that can quietly build back Syria, unify it, stabilize it, help it prosper. Because in 5 to 10 years, when America is gone, Usman, when there is no American support ready for the Israelis to call on, at that point, if Ahmed Al-Sharra is still in government, Ahmed Al-Sharra in government, in a unified, prospering Syria, who's built out their trade ties, their military ties, maybe China's involved now, maybe Iran is re-involved, maybe Russia's been re-engaged, maybe Turkey is still an active player and has helped the new Syrian military rebuild. At that point, Ahmed Al-Sharra might go, okay, I want to be known as Abu Muhammad Al-Jolani again, military call sign. Because fun fact, his name is Al-Jolani because he's from the Golan Heights in Syria. So he might think, yeah, the Golan Heights, that's actually Syrian territory. I'm thinking I want that back now. That's worrying for Israel.
Jazakallah khair, Mahfuz. I think this was just tip of the iceberg, as they say.
It was. For better or worse. It was.
And we'll have to dwell deep and deeper into many of the subjects here.
Inshallah.
Appreciate your time and your thoughts and the discussion. And no doubt you are welcome to come back again. And no doubt I am going to invite you again on many occasions.
Inshallah, we'll see. It's completely up to you. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, Osman. Thank you for inviting me. I wish abundant success to you, your team, the podcast you're building. May Allah place barakah in all our efforts. Allah sees efforts, not the outcomes. The outcome is in Allah's hands. The effort is for us to put in. And we make dua that Allah takes us in the right direction for the benefit of the ummah and the benefit of humanity as a whole. So thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Jazakallah khair. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.